You've been eating these chips your whole life. So have I. But I finally looked at what's actually inside them, and the ingredient labels tell a very different story than the front of the bag. 10 of the biggest chip brands in America. One can't legally be called a potato chip. Another hides the same additive twice on the same label under 2 different names. Several are sold with cleaner ingredients in other countries by the exact same company that sells you the chemical-heavy version. Here we're going through all 10, worst to most concerning. Then I'll show you 4 that are actually worth buying. Let's get into it. Number 10. Ruffles Cheddar and Sour Cream. This is the one that's been at every party for decades. The Ridge Chip. The familiar purple bag. Most people grab it without a second thought. 1 ounce contains 340 milligrams of sodium. That sounds manageable on its own, until you do the math on a party-size bag. You're looking at roughly 4,400 milligrams total. The FDA's recommended daily limit is 2,300 milligrams. 1 bag of Ruffles gets you to nearly double that, but sodium is almost the least interesting issue here. Look at the ingredient panel, and you'll find monosodium glutamate listed directly alongside yeast extract. Most people see MSG and move on. What they miss is the pairing. Because yeast extract is itself a concentrated source of free glutamate, the exact same flavor-amplifying compound. You're not getting 1 hit of glutamate enhancement. You're getting 2 delivered through 2 different ingredient names in a way most shoppers would never catch. Then there are the dyes. Yellow 5 and Yellow 6 both appear on this label. If Ruffles were sold in the European Union, the bag would be legally required to carry a printed warning, may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children. That requirement has been in place since 2010, after a study in The Lancet found statistically significant increases in hyperactive behavior in children who consume these dyes. No equivalent warning exists in the United States. And here's the part worth knowing if you've ever trusted the front of this bag. Some earlier Ruffles packaging carried no MSG messaging on the front, while the ingredient panel on that same bag explicitly listed monosodium glutamate. How is that legally possible? FDA classification rules allow manufacturers to list glutamate-containing ingredients, like yeast extract, without those counting toward an MSG declaration. So, the front says one thing, the panel says another. Consumer advocacy organizations have flagged this loophole for years. It's still unresolved. The front of the bag is not the full story. It never was. Number 9. Pringles Original. The iconic can. Everyone recognizes it. It's sold next to potato chips. It's always been treated like a potato chip. Here is something Pringles has never put in its marketing. The FDA ruled in 1975 that Pringles cannot legally be called potato chips. They're classified as potato crisps because actual dried potato makes up only about 42% of the product. The rest is a manufactured dough: corn flour, cornstarch, rice flour, wheat starch, and maltodextrin pressed into that uniform curved shape and fried in a blend of oils. And about those oils, the American formula lists 5: corn oil, cottonseed oil, canola oil, high oleic soybean oil, and sunflower oil. The one worth pausing on is cottonseed oil. Cotton is regulated as an industrial crop, not a food crop. That means it can be, and routinely is, sprayed with pesticides at concentrations that would be illegal on crops grown for human consumption. The oil pressed from those seeds carries some of the highest pesticide residue loads in the seed oil category. That's not a fringe claim. It's a basic agricultural classification fact most consumers have never been told. The label also includes mono and diglycerides used to keep the pressed dough uniform. The FDA banned artificial trans fats in 2018, but mono and diglycerides were specifically exempted because they're classified as emulsifiers rather than fats. Even though they can contain the same partially hydrogenated compounds that made trans fats a problem in the first place, that exemption is still in place. There's also wheat starch in the formula, making Pringles a hidden gluten source. No prominent allergen call-out on the front of the can. You have to find it in the fine print, which matters if someone in your household has celiac disease or a gluten sensitivity and assumes a potato-based snack is safe. Now, here's the comparison that should bother everyone. Pringles sold in the UK uses a single oil, sunflower, and yeast extract for flavor. The American version Uses a 5-oil blend, including cottonseed, plus those mono and diglycerides. Same brand, same parent company, Kellogg's. Two completely different formulas depending on where you live. There's also a documented recall. In 2010, a salmonella contamination at a supplier called Basic Food Flavors triggered a recall of Pringles cheeseburger and taco night flavors. The more complex the manufacturing chain, the more contamination risk gets built into the system by default. You recognize the can. Most people have never examined what's actually in it. Number 8. Cheetos Crunchy Original. That orange powder on your fingers after eating Cheetos is not cheese. It is Yellow 6, a synthetic dye derived from petroleum, listed plainly on the ingredient label. The full panel: enriched cornmeal, vegetable oil, whey, cheddar cheese, salt, corn maltodextrin, natural and artificial flavors, whey protein concentrate, monosodium glutamate, lactic acid, citric acid, and artificial color Yellow 6. In 2021, California's Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment published a peer-reviewed report concluding that synthetic food dye consumption can produce hyperactivity and other neurobehavioral effects in some children. That report cited research showing that as little as 1 milligram of Yellow 5 affected the most sensitive children. One lemon-lime Gatorade contains 3 times that dose. Cheetos contain more. Here's the detail that tells you everything about how these decisions get made. In late 2025, PepsiCo launched a line called Simply NKD Cheetos that removes the artificial dyes entirely, which proves they can make this product without Yellow 6. The capability exists. They made that call for one SKU and kept the original synthetic dye formula right next to it on the exact same shelf. They're not reformulating the original. They're offering an alternative and letting you figure it out. When a company can remove an ingredient and chooses not to on the product most people buy, that's a decision worth remembering the next time you're in the chip aisle. If this is already more than you expected to find on a chip label, go ahead and like this video. It helps other people find this investigation before their next grocery run. Number 7. Funyuns Original. The name implies onion rings. The actual product is something quite different. Onion powder, the ingredient this entire product is named after, appears near the very bottom of the list, well below cornmeal. 3 types of seed oil, salt, cornstarch, maltodextrin, MSG, and 3 separately listed artificial dyes: Yellow 5 Lake, Yellow 6 Lake, and Blue 1 Lake. That lake designation matters. It means the dye has been chemically bonded to an aluminum substrate, so it can be dispersed through oil-based seasonings. These are aluminum-bound petroleum-derived dyes in a product that barely contains the ingredient on its own label. The Flamin' Hot variant adds a 4th dye, Red 40 Lake, stacking 4 synthetic colors into a single snack. The seasoning also pairs MSG with yeast extract, the same glutamate doubling we saw in Ruffles. The list also includes natural flavors, a regulatory term that allows a manufacturer to shelter dozens of distinct compounds behind 2 words with 0 individual disclosure required. There's no way to know what's actually behind it. That's how the rule works. The product is named after an ingredient that's an afterthought on its own label. Number 6. Doritos Cool Ranch. Cool Ranch goes further than most people expect from a savory chip. Scan the seasoning ingredients and you'll find 3 separate forms of added sugar. Sugar, dextrose, and corn syrup solids. 3 added sugars in something marketed as a savory snack. Layer in MSG, the disodium inosinate and disodium guanylate flavor enhancer combination, maltodextrin, and a dye trio of Red 40, Yellow 5, and Blue 1. And you start to understand what Cool Ranch flavor actually is. It's not a ranch recipe. It's a flavor profile engineered by food scientists using MSG, dehydrated dairy, citric acid, and proprietary compounds hidden inside the natural and artificial flavors designation. There is no Cool Ranch flavor that exists anywhere in nature. The taste you experience is a precisely constructed chemical signal designed to activate your brain's reward system and make it genuinely difficult to stop reaching into the bag. That's not an accusation. That's how the product was designed to function. 3 forms of sugar in a chip with no reason to contain any. Most people eating it have no idea that's even there. Number 5. Doritos Nacho Cheese. The ingredient panel on a bag of Doritos Nacho Cheese contains more than 30 individual ingredients. For a product marketed as a simple corn chip with cheese flavoring, that number deserves a second look. Among those 30 plus, all 3 synthetic dyes that trigger mandatory warning labels in Europe: Yellow 6, Yellow 5, and Red 40. 2 forms of added sugar in a savory snack, and a triple-stacked glutamate system, MSG working alongside disodium inosinate and disodium guanylate. 2 compounds that research shows can amplify umami perception many times beyond MSG alone. That's a lot of engineering in something sold as a snack chip. Now, here's the part that's hard to ignore. Doritos sold in the European Union and United Kingdom have already been reformulated. The EU version uses paprika extract, annatto, turmeric, and beet juice for color. No synthetic petroleum-derived dyes. Same brand, same parent company. 2 completely different products. Food policy advocate Vani Hari stated during Senate testimony in September 2024 that American food companies are selling reformulated versions of these products overseas without these chemicals, while continuing to sell the most chemically complex version here. There's also a documented recall on record. In August 2023, Frito-Lay recalled approximately 7,000 bags of Doritos Nacho Cheese in Pennsylvania due to undeclared soy and wheat allergens caused by cross-contamination on shared production lines. For someone with a severe allergy, that's not a minor labeling error. That's a potential emergency room visit. And when you're running 30-plus ingredients through shared equipment at production scale, that category of risk is structural. It comes with the complexity. The cleaner version of this chip already exists. Americans are being sold a different product, not because the alternative is impossible, but because it hasn't been required. Before we get to the final 4 on this list, here's the context that connects everything you've heard so far. 8 of the 10 worst products here come from a single company, Frito-Lay, a division of PepsiCo. Frito-Lay controls roughly 60% of the entire American salty snack market. Their 7 flagship brands, Lay's, Doritos, Cheetos, Ruffles, Tostitos, Fritos, and Sun Chips, each generate over $1 billion in annual revenue. What that means practically, most Americans eating chips are cycling through the same seed oil blends, the same synthetic dye systems, and the same layered flavor enhancement architecture, regardless of which bag they grab. The chip aisle looks like variety. Nutritionally and chemically, it's almost the same product in different shapes. That's the backdrop for the next 4 brands. These aren't obscure products. They're ones most people walk past without a second look. Number 4. Cheez-It Original. Cheez-It technically lives in the cracker aisle, but it functions as a chip snack in most households, sits beside chips on most shelves, and the ingredients make it relevant here. Look at the Kellanova ingredient panel, and you'll find enriched flour, vegetable oil with TBHQ for freshness, and cheese cultures. That phrase, with TBHQ for freshness, is the one that requires attention. TBHQ stands for tertiary butyl hydroquinone. It's a synthetic antioxidant preservative derived from petroleum. The FDA permits it, but caps the concentration at 0.02% of a food's total oil content. Japan has banned TBHQ as a food additive outright. Animal studies have associated TBHQ with liver enlargement, vision disturbances, and behavioral changes. A 2017 study published in the journal Ebiomedicine found that TBHQ suppressed immune responses to influenza vaccines in animal models. The Center for Science in the Public Interest, which has tracked food additive safety for decades, lists TBHQ among the additives it recommends consumers actively avoid. Sodium sits at 230 milligrams per 30-gram serving and climbs to 320 milligrams in the smaller single-serve pouches at gas stations and convenience stores. And that, made with 100% real cheese claim on the front of the box, technically accurate, but cheese sits well below flour and oil on the actual ingredient list. What you're primarily eating is oil-soaked enriched flour, with cheese, as a supporting ingredient, preserved with a compound Japan won't allow in its food supply. The box looks clean. The claim on the front is defensible. The preservative inside is one that a major developed nation has banned. Those don't go together as well as the packaging implies. Number 3. Bugles Original. Bugles holds a distinction no other major chip product in America shares. It is the only one that prints "Freshness Preserved by BHT" directly on the front of the bag. BHT, butylated hydroxytoluene, is restricted in EU infant foods and banned outright in Japan. Animal studies have raised concerns about liver effects, kidney effects, and potential endocrine disruption. The research in humans is not conclusive, but the regulatory pattern across other developed nations is worth noting. But BHT isn't even the most surprising thing on this label. The third ingredient in original unflavored Bugles is sugar, not in a flavored variety. The base product. The full list reads: degermed yellow cornmeal, coconut oil and/or palm kernel oil, sugar, salt, baking soda. Sugar at position 3 in what most people assume is a plain savory corn snack. Those tropical oils push saturated fat to 6 grams per serving, 32% of the daily recommended value. Sodium sits at 320 milligrams per serving, one of the highest figures in the entire category. The bag also carries a bioengineered food ingredients disclosure, confirming the use of GMO corn, a restricted preservative printed right on the front, hidden sugar in the third ingredient slot, near peak sodium for the category, and a product that looks from the outside like one of the simpler options in the aisle. Most people walk past the BHT disclosure every single time without registering what it means. Number 2. Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Flamin' Hot Cheetos is the only major branded chip currently sold in America whose ingredient panel lists 4 separate artificial colors: Red 40 Lake, Yellow 6 Lake, Yellow 6, and Yellow 5. Yellow 6 appears twice, once as a lake formulation, once in standard form, in the same product. The Environmental Working Group classifies this product as Nova Group 4 ultra-processed and flags 4 of its ingredients among their highest concern food additives. The flavor system adds another layer. The seasoning includes MSG, yeast extract, disodium inosinate, disodium guanylate, and sodium diacetate. 5 separate flavor-enhancing compounds in a single product, engineered to produce a flavor intensity that is genuinely difficult to walk away from. Sodium runs 250 milligrams per ounce. A party-size bag delivers approximately 2,500 milligrams in one sitting. Now, here is the medical evidence, and this is documented, not anecdotal. Dr. Martha Rivera at White Memorial Medical Center in Los Angeles reported treating up to 6 children per day for gastritis, directly linked to spicy chip consumption. Dr. Ivan Juarez, chief of pediatrics at Kaiser Permanente in Fresno, described patients being brought to the emergency room because of this product and called the situation, her exact words, insane, absolutely insane. Dr. Carrie Cavender at Le Bonheur Children's Hospital in Memphis reported seeing around 100 children per month with chip-related gastritis and ulcer complaints. A 2022 case report in the peer-reviewed journal Cureus documented a young adult who arrived at an emergency department with symptoms suggesting a gastrointestinal bleed. It was Red 40 dye from a single bag of Flamin' Hot Cheetos, mimicking a genuine medical emergency in clinical appearance. School districts in Illinois, California, and New Mexico have banned Flamin' Hot Cheetos from school grounds since 2012. Multiple physicians, multiple hospital systems, a documented case in a peer-reviewed journal, school bans across 3 states. This is not anecdotal, and it's still not number 1. Number 1. Takis Fuego. If you've been tracking the pattern through this whole list, you've seen these problems accumulate one product at a time. Takis Fuego concentrates more of them into a single bag than anything else currently on that shelf. The ingredient panel: corn flour, vegetable oil, which may be palm, soybean, or canola, salt, maltodextrin, citric acid, sugar, monosodium glutamate, hydrolyzed soy protein, onion powder, yeast extract, Red 40 Lake, Yellow 6 Lake, natural and artificial flavors, sodium bicarbonate, chili pepper, disodium inosinate, disodium guanylate, and TBHQ. Let's count the glutamate system. MSG, hydrolyzed soy protein, which releases free glutamates during processing. Yeast extract, another concentrated glutamate source. Then, disodium inosinate and disodium guanylate, two compounds that research shows can amplify umami perception by 10 to 20 times beyond MSG alone. That is a quadruple-stacked glutamate enhancement system in a single snack. Nothing else on this list comes close. On top of that, TBHQ, the petroleum-derived preservative that Japan has banned, plus 2 aluminum-bound dyes that would require mandatory warning labels in the EU. And that vegetable oil listing doesn't even commit to a specific oil. The formula can shift between palm, soybean, and canola without any update to what you see on the label. Sodium runs approximately 390 milligrams per ounce. A standard 4-ounce bag delivers around 1,560 milligrams, 68% of an adult's full recommended daily sodium intake in a single sitting. The Takis Blue Heat variant adds Blue One Lake on top of all of this, making it a triple dye product. Every one of those dyes would require a warning label in Europe. None require one here. Pediatricians across multiple hospital systems have linked regular Takis consumption to gastritis, acid reflux, and emergency room visits in children and teenagers. The product is marketed heavily to younger consumers through bright packaging, extreme flavor branding, and social media campaigns aimed directly at teens. Former FDA Commissioner David Kessler, who wrote The End of Overeating, uses the term hyperpalatable to describe products engineered this way. Combinations of sugar, fat, salt, and flavor enhancers calibrated to excessively activate the brain's reward system. His point, supported by research, is that the difficulty stopping isn't a personal weakness. It's the designed outcome, highest sodium density on this list, most aggressive flavor enhancement architecture, a banned preservative, multiple petroleum-derived dyes, an oil declaration that doesn't even name a specific oil, and a marketing strategy aimed at kids and teenagers. That's why it takes the #1 spot. Now that you know what to avoid, here are 4 brands that actually held up. These are not miracle health foods. They're still fried starches with calories and fat, and I want to be clear about that. But each one made the deliberate decision to remove the synthetic dyes, the layered glutamate systems, and the petroleum-derived preservatives. That's a genuinely meaningful difference when you're thinking about what you eat regularly over years, not just one bag. Best option number 4, Siete Foods Grain-Free Tortilla Chips. Siete's sea salt variety contains 5 ingredients: cassava flour, avocado oil, coconut flour, chia seed, and sea salt. Grain-free, paleo-certified, non-GMO, vegan, and kosher. Sodium runs between 125 and 150 milligrams on the plain variety, meaningfully lower than everything on the worst list. It's also one of the most widely available genuinely clean tortilla chips in mainstream grocery. Whole Foods, Sprouts, Walmart, Target, Kroger, Publix, H-E-B, and Amazon. Around $6 to $7 a bag. But there's an asterisk here that matters. PepsiCo acquired Siete Foods for $1.2 billion in a deal that closed in early 2025. The Garza family founders publicly committed to maintaining their recipes, and the ingredient lists have not changed so far. However, the acquisition pattern is documented. Quaker bought Rice-A-Roni, Kellogg's bought Kashi, General Mills bought Annie's. In each case, ingredient substitutions and cost-cutting reformulations followed. If you're buying Siete, check the label every time you buy it. 5 ingredients should stay 5 ingredients. If that number starts climbing, you'll know something has changed. The product is clean right now. Whether that holds is worth watching. Best option number 3, Lesser Evil Paleo Puffs. Lesser Evil makes cassava-based puffs cooked in organic coconut oil, USDA Organic Certified, Non-GMO Project Verified, Paleo Foundation Certified, gluten-free, grain-free, and manufactured in a solar-powered facility. Sodium ranges between 130 and 180 milligrams depending on the flavor. Available at Whole Foods, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, Wegmans, Target, Amazon, and Thrive Market at around $5 to $6 per bag. What sets Lesser Evil apart beyond the ingredient list is the ownership structure. The company is privately held. No major snack conglomerate in the background making supply chain or cost decisions. There's no PepsiCo or General Mills quietly influencing the formula. To be straight with you, though, the Paleo Puffs ingredient list runs 16 items deep and includes organic flavor and yeast extract. That's not the strictest clean label you'll find. If you want the tightest option from this brand, look at their egg white curls. Fewer ingredients and functional protein from organic egg whites. Privately owned, no corporate parent, and their cleanest product is cleaner than the flagship in this category. That's a genuinely good sign. Best option number 2, Jackson's Sweet Potato Chips in Coconut Oil. Jackson's has one of the simplest ingredient lists in the entire snack category. Sweet potatoes, organic coconut oil, and sea salt. 3 ingredients. Sodium at 150 milligrams per ounce, 150 calories, 9 grams of fat, 18 grams of carbohydrate, 3 grams of fiber, non-GMO, gluten-free, grain-free, paleo-certified, free of all top 9 allergens, and kosher. The sweet potato base also provides naturally occurring beta-carotene, vitamin A, and potassium, none of which you'll find in any corn-based chip from the worst list. Available at Whole Foods, Sprouts, Wegmans, Natural Grocers, Amazon, and Thrive Market for roughly $5.50 to $7 per bag. One thing worth knowing before you buy: Jackson's has been transitioning some products from coconut oil to avocado oil, and the brand doesn't currently hold a seed oil-free certification, meaning avocado oil purity is supplier tested rather than independently verified. A 2023 UC Davis study found that roughly 70% of store-brand retail avocado oils were either rancid or adulterated with cheaper seed oils. No equivalent testing has been done on chip product avocado oil specifically. The coconut oil varieties are the safest choice right now. Check the label every time. It'll tell you which oil is being used. Best option number 1, Hacienda chips. Hacienda sets a standard no other major branded tortilla chip currently meets. The complete ingredient list: organic corn, 100% grass-fed beef tallow, and sea salt. That's it. Sodium at 100 milligrams per ounce, the lowest of any branded tortilla chip on the market. 130 calories per ounce, 8 grams of fat, 17 grams of carbohydrate, 3 grams of fiber. The corn is USDA organic certified, which under USDA rules means it cannot be genetically modified. The fat source is beef tallow, a traditional cooking fat that's approximately 50% saturated and 42% monounsaturated, with almost no polyunsaturated content. That's essentially the opposite fat profile of the industrial seed oil blends running through every mainstream chip on the worst list. Hacienda is sold direct to consumer and through select retailers including Erewhon, Bristol Farms, and some Whole Foods locations. Price runs from $9 to $13 per 5 ounces bag, roughly 3 times the cost of a mainstream chip. The shelf life is short because nothing inside the bag is doing the chemical job of a preservative. Think about what that actually means. When a bag of Doritos sits on a retail shelf for 6 months without visible change, something inside that bag is working as a chemical stabilizer. Hacienda's short shelf life isn't a drawback. It's proof that the ingredients are exactly what the label says they are. Is Hacienda expensive? Yes. But here's the honest comparison. When you buy a $3 bag of Doritos, you're paying for 30 ingredients, most of which exist to extend shelf life, amplify repeat consumption, and produce color through petroleum-derived dyes. You're funding a system built on the cheapest possible inputs, engineered into palatability through chemistry. Hacienda proves that a tortilla chip can be 3 ingredients, taste like actual food, and carry no warning requirement in any country on Earth. That's what food is supposed to be. Here's what this investigation actually shows. 10 products, 8 from a single company, Frito-Lay, holding 60% of the American salty snack market. The same companies making these products have already reformulated cleaner versions for European markets. Doritos in the EU uses beet juice and paprika for color. Pringles in the UK runs on one oil. Americans are receiving a more chemically complex product. Not because a cleaner version is impossible, but because it hasn't been required here. Before your next grocery run, remember one thing: flip the bag over. If the ingredient list runs past 5 or 6 items, or if you see TBHQ, BHT, Red 40, Yellow 5, yellow 6, mono and diglycerides, or a vegetable oil with no specific oil named, you now know exactly what you're looking at. Products made from real food don't need 30 ingredients to taste like food. Most people just never read that far. If this changed what you'll reach for next time, share it with one person who's still buying the same bag they've never once flipped over.